The invasion mistake. Grand Admiral Vexteran of the Xeraxian Empire stood on the command deck of his flagship, the inevitable conquest. His four eyes narrowed as he studied the holographic representation of the small blue-green planet. His scaled skin shimmered under the ambient lighting as he flexed his taloned hands in anticipation. "This one looks promising," he said, his voice a resonant rumble. "Resource-rich, reasonable gravity, and according to our scans, populated by a pre-FTL species with minimal defensive capabilities." His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Zillick, consulted her datapad. "They call it Earth, Admiral. The dominant species self-identifies as human. They've achieved rudimentary spaceflight, but haven't ventured beyond their own satellite. Their military technology is primarily kinetic and chemical-based with early-stage nuclear capabilities." Vexteran's mouthparts formed what passed for a smile in Xeraxian physiology. "Perfect. A standard intimidation display should be sufficient. Deploy the fleet in Formation Delta. Let's give these humans a proper introduction to the galactic community." Little did Vexteran know that across the galaxy, alarm bells were already ringing. The Galactic Council chamber was chaos. The normally orderly proceedings had dissolved into a cacophony of voices, tentacles, appendages, and atmospheric discharges as representatives of the 700 most advanced civilizations in the known universe expressed their dismay simultaneously. Silence. The voice of first speaker, Tilara, cut through the noise, her crystalline form pulsing with intense blue light. The chamber gradually quieted. "We have confirmed reports that a Xeraxian battle fleet has entered the Sol system and is on approach to the third planet." Tilara's tone conveyed the gravity of the situation. "They appear to be preparing for a standard conquest protocol." Ambassador Mithran of the Ardulian Confederation, a being composed primarily of sentient gas contained within an environmental suit, floated forward. "Has no one informed the Xeraxians of Earth's classification?" A nervous ripple passed through the assembly. "We attempted communication," replied Tilara, "but the Xeraxians have engaged their isolation protocols, standard procedure during conquest operations. They are not accepting external communications until their initial demonstration of force is complete." "By the cosmic void," whispered Mithran, the lights on his environmental suit flashing in patterns indicating extreme distress. "They have no idea what they're walking into." High Counselor Zenith of the Quarian technocracy, an ancient species of silicon-based lifeforms, raised a crystalline appendage. "Perhaps we should explain to the Assembly why Earth carries a Class X designation. Some of our younger members may not be familiar with the reasoning." Tilara's form pulsed in acknowledgement. "Display historical file Earth X1. Classified access only." The central hologram activated, showing a slowly rotating image of Earth. Earth and its inhabitants, humans, represent a unique case in galactic classification. Tilara began. "Despite their technological limitations, they have been designated as a Class X restricted world, meaning no contact is permitted until they develop FTL capabilities independently." "But why?" asked a newly appointed representative from a gas giant in the Andromeda arm. "They seem primitive enough." High Counselor Zenith's voice rumbled like stones grinding together. "Tell that to the Mexery." An uncomfortable silence fell over the chamber. "The who?" asked the confused representative. "Exactly," replied Zenith. 200 galactic standard years ago, the Mexori Empire was a rising power in the galactic community. They had conquered 73 worlds across 12 star systems. They were a Type II civilization with technology considerably more advanced than Earth's current capabilities. Tilara continued. "The Mexori attempted an invasion of Earth, believing it would be a simple conquest of a primitive world. Historical record Earth X 937. The hologram shifted to show grainy footage recovered from a Mexori scout ship, the last transmission received before their attempted invasion. The scenes that played out showed initial confidence giving way to confusion, then panic, and finally desperation as the supposedly primitive humans not only resisted effectively, but began to adapt Mexori technology against them with implausible speed. Nothing remained of the Mexori civilization within 6 standard months of their Earth invasion, Zenith stated flatly. Nothing. The chamber remained silent as the implications sank in. But how? Asked the Andromedan representative, voice barely audible. Tilara's crystalline form shifted to an educational blue. Humans evolved as persistence predators on a death world of exceptional environmental diversity. Their planet contains ecosystems ranging from frozen wastelands to scorching deserts, from oxygen-deprived mountains to crushing oceanic depths, and humans have adapted to survive in all of them. The hologram displayed humans in various extreme environments, climbing sheer rock faces, diving into oceanic trenches, traversing burning deserts, establishing bases in Antarctica. They are the only known sentient species that recreationally goes to dangerous places that might kill them, Tilara continued. For fun. The images shifted to show humans engaging in activities labeled as extreme sports, exploration, and adventure tourism. But that's not what makes them truly dangerous, added Zenith. The problematic aspect of humanity is this: they are simultaneously the most cooperative and the most conflict-prone species we've ever encountered. The hologram displayed scenes of human warfare throughout the ages juxtaposed with examples of massive cooperative endeavors. They've spent most of their history fighting each other, Mithran explained, which means they've been honing their combat tactics against the only worthy opponent they know, themselves. And when faced with an external threat, their internal conflicts are immediately set aside in favor of the greater human collective. They can form social bonds with literally anything, continued Tilara. They create emotional attachments to members of other species, inanimate objects, and even conceptual constructs. Yet they also have this peculiar psychological response to attempted domination they call spite. They will accept tremendous personal harm if it means thwarting the will of an entity trying to control them. Most rational species submit to superior force as a survival mechanism, Zenith added. Humans view submission as worse than death. A nervous murmur rippled through the council. We must stop the Zeraxians before it's too late, declared Mithran. I fear it may already be too late, Tilara responded grimly. The Zeraxian fleet entered Earth's detection range approximately 37 standard hours ago. Grand Admiral Vexterin was confused. The initial phases of the invasion had gone exactly according to protocol. His fleet had positioned itself in Earth orbit, deployed demonstration weapons against uninhabited areas and select military installations, and broadcast the standard surrender ultimatum in all Earth languages. But instead of the expected panic and capitulation, something entirely different had happened. Status report, he demanded, pacing the command deck of the inevitable conquest. Sub-Commander Zillick looked up from her console, her scales pale with stress. It's complicated, Admiral. The humans have not surrendered. In fact, they appear to be organizing. Elaborate. Initially, their response was fragmented, as expected from a planet with no unified government. However, in the past 30 Earth hours, they have formed what they're calling an Earth Defense Coalition. Military forces from previously adversarial nations are now coordinating their efforts. Civilian populations are being mobilized for support roles. Vexteran's upper eyes blinked in disbelief. That's unusually rapid adaptation. What about our ground forces? Zillick's scales flickered in what Vexteran recognized as extreme distress. We've lost contact with 63% of our initial landing parties. The remainder report unexpected resistance. The humans are employing asymmetric warfare tactics with disturbing effectiveness. That's impossible, Vexteran hissed. We have superior technology, superior weapons, superior everything. Sir, Zillick hesitated. There's something else. Our communication systems have been compromised. The humans are not only intercepting our transmissions but have somehow managed to begin deciphering our encryption. In 30 hours? That's not possible. There's more, Zillick continued, her voice dropping. Some of our ground troops have been captured. The humans are interrogating them. Vexterin felt a cold sensation run down his spine. How effective are their interrogation methods? Highly effective, sir. They're not just using physical means. They're employing psychological tactics that our troops were never prepared for. The humans have this concept they call good cop, bad cop, and something else called Stockholm Syndrome. Before Zillick could finish, the ship's alarms began blaring. Multiple projectiles detected, shouted the tactical officer. Primitive nuclear weapons approaching from multiple launch sites. Vexterin relaxed slightly. Activate defensive screens. Their primitive nuclear weapons will be ineffective against our technology. Sir, the tactical officer's voice faltered. These aren't standard nuclear missiles. They've been modified. They contain components from our own weapon systems. What? How is that possible? The humans appear to have salvaged technology from our disabled landing craft and incorporated it into their weapons. The missiles are being guided by our own targeting algorithms. Vexterin stared in disbelief as the tactical display showed dozens of missiles approaching his fleet, each one somehow partially shielded against their standard countermeasures. Impossible, he whispered. They couldn't have reverse-engineered our technology so quickly. The first impacts rocked the Ziraxian fleet. Not all missiles got through, but enough did to cause significant damage. And this was just the beginning. Over the next 24 hours, the situation deteriorated rapidly. Humans had not only continued to adapt Ziraxian technology, but they had begun broadcasting on Ziraxian frequencies using the Ziraxian language. They were learning, adapting, evolving their tactics at a pace that defied comprehension. Vexterin stood on his increasingly damaged command deck, watching as his grand invasion force was being systematically dismantled by a supposedly primitive species. Sir, Zillick approached, looking defeated. We've received a transmission from the Galactic Council. Vexterin's scales dulled. The Council's intervention could only mean one thing. This invasion had been a terrible mistake. Put it through, he said quietly. The hologram of first speaker Tilara appeared, her crystalline form pulsing with urgent colors. Grand Admiral Vexterin, she began, you must cease your attack on Earth immediately. The planet is classified as a restricted Class X world under Galactic Statute 7293B. Your invasion is in violation of Council law. Why wasn't I informed? Vexterin demanded, though he already knew the answer. In his arrogance, he had not bothered to check the classification of this seemingly insignificant world. We attempted to contact you, Tilara replied, but you had engaged isolation protocols. Admiral, you must withdraw immediately. Earth is not just any primitive world. Humans are uniquely dangerous. Vexterin laughed bitterly. We're discovering that, Speaker, but I fear it may be too late for withdrawal. The humans have already captured several of our ships. They're learning our technology at an alarming rate. Tilara's form pulsed with what might have been sympathy. Then I suggest immediate surrender, Admiral. Request amnesty under Council protection. It may be the only way to prevent a catastrophe. As if to punctuate her words, another impact rocked the flagship. Sir, called the tactical officer. The humans have boarded 3 of our support vessels. And, sir, they're not just disabling them. They're flying them. The last hope of maintaining Ziraxian dignity crumbled. Vexterin looked at the tactical display, watching as his carefully orchestrated invasion collapsed into chaos. Open a channel to all human communication networks, he ordered quietly. It was time to surrender, not to save his fleet, he realized, but to save his species from the terrible mistake he had made in attacking Earth. Humanity unleashed. 6 months after the failed Ziraxian invasion, the Galactic Council chamber had been remodeled. The traditional circular arrangement had been supplemented with a new section, a human delegation area that accommodated their unique physical requirements and peculiar customs, such as the need for chairs and something called coffee breaks. First speaker, Tilura's crystalline form hovered at the center, pulsing with formal golden light as she called the emergency session to order. Representatives of the galactic community, she began, we are gathered today to address the unprecedented situation that has developed following the unauthorized Xeraxian contact with Earth. The chamber was filled beyond capacity. Representatives from all 700 council species were present, along with observers from non-council races. All eyes, sensory appendages, and perception organs were focused on the section where the human delegation would soon arrive. Before we proceed, Tilera continued, I believe it would be instructive to hear directly from Grand Admiral Vexterin regarding the consequences of his actions. Vexterin, once proud and powerful, now humbled and diminished in status, moved to the center of the chamber. His scales had lost their luster, and his posture conveyed defeat. Esteemed Council, he began, his voice lacking its former resonance, I take full responsibility for the catastrophic decision to invade Earth without proper research into its classification status. A murmur passed through the assembly. What I witnessed defies conventional understanding of pre-FTL civilizations, he continued. Upon our arrival, human resistance was initially fragmented and ineffective, as expected. However, within hours, they began a process of adaptation that should have been impossible. Vexterin's 4 eyes scanned the chamber. By the second day, they had not only unified their global military response, but had begun to analyze and reverse engineer our technology from damaged or captured vessels. By the third day, they were implementing hybrid weapons using our own systems against us. By the 5th day, he paused, his voice faltering. By the 5th day, they had captured intact Xeraxian ships and were learning to operate them. Not just operate, improve them. Gasps and murmurs of disbelief rippled through the assembly. I initiated surrender protocols on the 6th day, Vexterin concluded. By then, humans had already extracted our database, language, and cultural information from our systems. They knew who we were, where we came from, and most alarmingly, they learned of the existence of the wider galactic community. As Vexterin returned to his diminished position, the chamber doors opened. The human delegation had arrived. Leading them was Ambassador Sophia Chen, a human female of average height, but commanding presence. Behind her walked her advisors, a military attaché, a scientific consultant, and most concerning of all, a cultural exchange officer whose role seemed primarily to involve introducing alien species to human entertainment media. The Council recognizes Earth's delegation, announced Tilara, her matrix now displaying a subtle blue-green pattern reminiscent of humanity's home world, a diplomatic courtesy that had not gone unnoticed. Thank you, first speaker, said Ambassador Chen, taking her place at the newly installed Earth station. Before we address the agenda, I wish to clarify Earth's position regarding the recent introduction to the galactic community. Her calm demeanor did little to mask the implicit steel in her words. When the Xeraxian fleet appeared in our skies, humanity faced an existential threat. Our response was born of necessity, to survive, to defend, to protect. We did what we had to do. Ambassador Chen gestured to a holographic display showing Earth's rapid technological evolution over the past 6 months. The images depicted human-modified alien vessels, hybrid technology, and new defensive systems that incorporated principles from a dozen different alien technologies. What began as a fight for survival has evolved into something more profound, she continued. Humanity has discovered that we are not alone in the universe. This knowledge has transformed our society, unified our planet, and accelerated our development in ways we could never have imagined. The assembled representatives shifted nervously. The implications were clear. Humanity had compressed centuries of technological advancement into months. We have studied the Galactic Council's charter, laws, and protocols, Chen stated. We understand that Earth was classified as a restricted world, meant to develop in isolation until we achieved FTL capability independently. She paused, her gaze sweeping the chamber. However, that classification became irrelevant the moment Zeraxian ships entered our atmosphere. The cosmic genie, as we say on Earth, cannot be put back in the bottle. High Counselor Zenith moved forward. What exactly are you proposing, Ambassador Chen? Chen smiled, a uniquely human expression that carried multiple possible meanings. We propose full recognition of Earth as a sovereign galactic entity, with all the rights and privileges thereof. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of protests. Tilera pulsed brightly to restore order. Earth has not yet developed independent FTL technology, objected a representative from the Quarian technocracy. The protocols are clear. A species must achieve this milestone through their own efforts before. With respect, interrupted Chen, we now possess functional FTL capabilities, adapted and improved from Zeraxian designs. Adapted technology does not qualify, insisted the Quarian. The technology was not developed independently. Chen's smile tightened slightly. Actually, we've made significant improvements to the original designs. Our engineers have already developed 3 new variations of FTL drive systems that are more efficient than the Zeraxian originals. We're calling one of them the obviously, that's how it works drive. Silence fell over the chamber as the implication sank in. Humans hadn't just copied the technology. They had understood it, improved it, and made it their own in a fraction of the time it had taken other species. Furthermore, Chen continued into the silence, we have drafted a proposed treaty, the Earth Protection and Technological Exchange Agreement. The key points are straightforward. 1. Recognition of Earth's sovereignty. 2. Mutual technological exchange. And 3. Proper introduction to the galactic neighborhood. And if these terms are not met, asked Mithran, the gas-filled diplomat floating forward. Chen shrugged, a uniquely human gesture of calculated casualness. Grand Admiral Vexterin has been extremely informative about various worlds in the galaxy, including the Zeraxian homeworld. We've been thinking of paying them a visit. The implied threat hung in the air like a suspended blade. You don't have the capability, protested another council member, though their translator conveyed a distinct lack of conviction. Ambassador Chen pointedly looked around at the holographic display showing repurposed Zeraxian vessels now in Earth orbit. We didn't have this capability 6 months ago either. Amazing what humans can do with a little motivation and some new toys. Tilara's crystalline form shifted through several colors before settling on a diplomatic gold. Ambassador Chen, the Galactic Council acknowledges Earth's response as justified self-defense under Statute 4221C. While we cannot officially sanction immediate full membership for a civilization that has not independently developed specific technologies, we are open to discussing observer status for Earth representatives. That's a start. Chen nodded. We've prepared a delegation to begin these discussions. With your permission, we'll dispatch them to designated coordinates immediately. Immediately. Tilara's form flickered in surprise. You have faster-than-light transport capabilities ready now. We've got something workable, Chen said vaguely. Turns out the principles weren't that complicated once we had working examples. Before the council could respond, alarms sounded throughout the chamber. Unidentified vessel approaching Galactic Council headquarters, announced the chamber's eye. Configuration unknown. Technology signature appears to be hybrid Zeraxian human design. Chen spread her hands in a gesture of feigned innocence. Oh, would you look at that? They must have been in the neighborhood. Don't worry, they're just eager to meet everyone. We've been alone in the universe for so long, you know. Can't wait to make new friends. The emphasis she placed on the word friends sent a collective shudder through the assembled delegates. Tilara's matrix stabilized. We will welcome your delegation, Ambassador Chen, and we assure you that the unfortunate incident with the Zeraxian Empire will be addressed appropriately. Great, Chen's tone brightened. I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. One galactic standard year after the failed Zeraxian invasion of Earth, the landscape of interstellar politics had changed dramatically. The Earth Protection and Technological Exchange Treaty, initially proposed as a simple document, had evolved into a comprehensive framework that outlined humanity's integration into the galactic community. More significantly, it had introduced concepts previously foreign to galactic law. Concepts like collective security, mutual defense, and technological innovation sharing. In the Council chamber, now permanently modified to accommodate human representatives, Ambassador Chen was concluding a presentation on Earth's latest contributions to interstellar medicine, a field in which humans had shown particular aptitude, combining technologies and approaches from a dozen different species into novel treatments. As you can see, she said, gesturing to the holographic display showing remarkable results, by integrating Ardulian cellular regeneration techniques with Quarian crystalline stabilization and our own stem cell research, we've developed a treatment that can address genetic disorders previously considered untreatable. The assembled representatives were impressed, despite their lingering concerns about Earth's meteoric rise. As the session concluded, Vex Terran, still present in the chamber but now serving as a junior diplomatic attaché rather than a military leader, found himself approached by Ambassador Chen. Admiral Vex Terran, she greeted him with practiced pronunciation. Ambassador Chen, he replied cautiously, what can I do for Earth's representative? Her smile was diplomatic but carried an edge. I wanted to personally thank you. Thank me. His translator couldn't quite mask his confusion. Of course, if your empire hadn't decided to invade Earth, we might still be happily oblivious to the wider galactic community, focusing on our petty internal disputes rather than our rightful place among the stars. She sipped from a container of the stimulant beverage humans called coffee, a substance that several council biologists had classified as a mild neurotoxin, but which humans consumed in vast quantities. Your invasion was the best thing that ever happened to our species, she continued conversationally. It unified us in ways nothing else could have. North, south, east, west, old divisions disappeared overnight when your ships appeared in our skies. So really, you did us an enormous favor. Vex Terran's breathing apparatus worked overtime as he processed the casual audacity of her statement. You're welcome. Chen's laugh was musical, but somehow deeply unsettling. In fact, there's a growing movement back on Earth to erect a monument to you, the alien who united humanity. Quite the legacy, don't you think? As Chen departed, leaving Vex Terran wondering whether her words were meant as gratitude or a subtle threat, he couldn't help but reflect on the irony of his situation. He had set out to conquer a primitive world, and instead had inadvertently unleashed a force that was now reshaping the galaxy. Across the chamber, First Speaker Lara and High Counselor Zenith observed the exchange. They're remarkable creatures, aren't they? Observed Zenith, his crystalline structure vibrating with complex emotions. Terrifying, you mean, replied Lara. In one standard year, they've advanced technologically at a pace that should have taken centuries. They've integrated themselves into galactic politics with an ease that defies explanation. And they've begun exporting their culture, their ideas, their entertainment, their philosophies, to worlds across the galaxy. And yet, mused Zenith, perhaps this was inevitable. Perhaps the universe needed humanity's unique perspective. Lara's crystalline form pulsed with uncertain colors. Or perhaps we've admitted into our community a species that will fundamentally transform everything we thought we knew about galactic civilization. For better or worse? Asked Zenith. Lara watched as Ambassador Chen moved confidently through the chamber, engaging with representatives from a dozen different species, her energy and enthusiasm seemingly boundless. I suppose, Lara replied slowly. We're all going to find out.